Okay, so welcome back to Vintage Game Night with Angry Plays Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. I'm picking up where I left off last time, which we had just completed the Dark Palace, the first palace in the Dark World. And so, as you can see, if you die or save and restart in the Dark World, you end up back at the at what's called the Dark Pyramid, where which occupies the same space as Hyrule Castle, and this is where we first got transported to the Dark World. And before we go too far into this and start checking out the second dungeon, because once you beat the first dungeon, it reveals the location of all of the other dungeons in sort of numerical order so that you can go tackle them. But before we go to the second dungeon, the Swamp Palace or the Watergate Palace, we're gonna run a bunch of little errands and things and pick some stuff up, and which sort of will show off the light world, dark world mechanic, as far as taking advantage of the shared space, and the fact that the dark world is a reflection of the light world. Yeah, wow, I'm having a little bit of trouble getting my flow here. Okay, so the dark world is a reflection of the light world, like I said, and there's a lot of things that are sort of common between the two of them. And whoops, some of these skulls, which take the place of the rocks in the light world, come to life. So we're going to take advantage of a few things now, and first of all is this weird circle of stones. Now remember, the magic mirror will bring us back to the... Whoops. Alright, I guess I got beat up a little bit more than I expected. Should have been paying attention. So the magic mirror will bring us back to the light world, and it brings us to this island that we couldn't access previously here in Lake Hylia. And for the moment, we're actually going to hang out in the light world and take care of some things. Some little odds and ends, errands. Actually, I really should go back to the Dark World, shouldn't I? You'll notice that a lot of the soldiers in the Light World have been replaced with stronger soldiers now that I've beaten the Light World. And I think I'm gonna go over here and just grab... I think there's a fairy pond over here. Just to replenish my hearts. Yep, okay. And honestly, I really should head back to the Dark World. But I didn't want to head back to the Dark World stuck in the lake there. So, I'm a little bit lost. I had a plan and everything. Alright, so the easiest way to... Hey, Tagrath. Yeah, Dark Souls 2 went in a completely different direction. And I'm cheating here because I shouldn't be playing this until I finish Dark Souls 1. But goodness knows when that's gonna be. Alright, so from this point forward in the game, whenever you enter the grounds of the palace, of the Castle of Hyrule, you're transported back to the Dark World. Castle Hyrule is now a permanent link between the Light World and the Dark World. You know, until you kind of fix things. The Wizard Aghanim ripped open a hole between the two universes Oops. I got bounced off the edge, didn't I? So the hammer that we picked up last time lets us pound these stakes into the ground, which doesn't so much look like pounding them into the ground as it does kind of flattening them like pancakes. But while we're here, there's a few things that we want to do. So apart from getting that heart piece that we just got, this place here, can't do anything with yet. This is the bomb shop. And this guy will refill your bombs if you want to spend the money, but we don't need to. Later on, he'll have some additional merchandise available, which we will take advantage of. But I didn't wander into it before or earlier in the game, and I probably should have. Oh, some of the trees. See, notice some of the trees have eyes that move, and they will. Some of them will spit bombs, but some of them will also talk to you. And this kind of there are all these people in the world who accidentally end up wandering into teleporters between the light world and the dark world. You just keep running into people who say, "Hey, I used to live in the light world, and then I accidentally stumbled into a teleporter." Now, here's another area where there's an interesting landmark. We use the magic mirror to return to the light world and find that we're up on this ledge that we couldn't have accessed earlier. And very helpfully, that leads us to another piece of heart. The other thing we're going to do here is we're going to check out... Whoops. Up there. We're going to check out this this area, and I'm actually going to enter it in the light world before I enter it in the dark world, because there's sort of a So you come into this area in the light world, and you see this flute kid, and he's playing for the animals, but if you walk too close, the animals run away, and he vanishes like a ghost. And there's no explanation given. If you walk away and come back, he'll reappear. But if we enter the same grove in the dark world, we'll find this weird fox creature. And he too, after wandering into this world... for a world that was sealed by the gods, it sure seems pretty easy to blunder into. He didn't manage to hold on to his flute, but he brought his shovel into the dark world. Alright, so now with the shovel, he mentions that he buried the flute in the light world with some flower seeds. Oh, damn it, I got... Okay, so if you get too close, the game... If you get too close to the flute guy, the game freezes your position. So it froze me in place while he played his little song. And then, before I could move again, the teleporter brought me back. So... This is just one of those things where you have to dig everywhere to find. Like, there's a ton of flowers here. And when I first played this game, I literally dug up this whole grove. But now I have the ocarina. And this is the first time in the Legend of Zelda series that the flute is actually depicted as an ocarina. Before that, in like 1 and 2, it was just a recorder or a whistle. So we play the song for him one last time. And, as you would expect, he turns into a tree. A creepy tree. Which is exactly how you would figure that story would end. But he directs us to the village with the flute. Which is in the light world. So we're gonna go ahead and head to the light world again using the magic mirror. And... whoops. Keep the boomerang on. I find the boomerang to be, like, the most useful of all the items. The problem is, though, that the little wind-up on it means that you have to get far enough away from an opponent that they're not going to hit you while you throw it. Which is why once you get hit by a dude, particularly because the Mercy invincibility in this game doesn't last too long, so once you get hit by a dude, you want to run pretty quick. And I can't quite remember where the old man was. He's in one of the... I think he's in the little tavern here. I think it's this guy. So we'll go ahead and... It's a good thing Link's eyes are very expressive because he doesn't speak. And of course, being an adventure game hero, Link will immediately go and do exactly what the old man suggested. Even though there's absolutely no reason whatsoever to do it. And this is actually the whole point of getting the flute, or the ocarina. Because imprisoned in the town's weather vane is an enchanted duck. I kid you not. But from this point on, whenever you play the flute, the duck will come, pick you up, and carry you to one of these light world locations. So it's sort of a fast travel, and it makes things very convenient. And the reason I picked that one up first is so that we can run around and take care of a few things that we need to take care of. So I'm going to buy some more blue medicine. Blue medicine is the handiest. It recovers both all of your hearts and all of your magic, the green magic meter. And then we're going to head back to something that we didn't quite take care of up on Death Mountain. Oops. So, you might remember that up on Death Mountain near the Tower of Hera was a tombstone that we had to read using the Book of Medora, and when we read it, it said, hold aloft the Master Sword. But when we came through here, we didn't actually have the Master Sword yet, so there was not much we could do with it. Well, now there is, since we have the Master Sword. And since we have the fast travel duck system, makes it much more convenient to collect these little odds and ends. Freaking Tektites. You know what? Fine, just get out of the way. I don't care. And those guys are still here, bouncing each other around. And now we can... Whoops. I guess we have to actually translate it. And now we get one of the 3 magic medallions in this game. This is the magic of ether, which is wind and lightning magic. It attacks everything on screen. Sort of, it does some damage, not a tremendous amount. Oh no, it freezes stuff, that's right. Okay. Which is neat, because if you freeze things, you can smash them with the hammer and get all your magic back. If you freeze something, either with the ether spell or with the ice rod, and then smash it with the hammer, it is very likely to drop one of those magic decanters, usually a full one that refills it completely. And then we're gonna... Whoops. I didn't mean to go in here just yet. We're gonna take care of... Oh, I actually forgot something, too. Alright, so we're gonna take care of 2 more little errands, like I said. The first one being... actually, the first one will head back near the village. And then we'll come back to the swamp, since that's ultimately where our little journey has to end. So, there was... Oh, there's 2 things here. Man. Alright, so number 1, outside the blacksmith, whose partner vanished, if you recall, there's this well that we couldn't get into, but now that we have the magic hammer, we can access it. And inside we find this mysterious altar. And if, through the logic of guessing and using every item you have, you eventually stumble on dropping the magic powder on the altar, you'll summon this little purple bat thing, which has a very, like, bipolar way of speaking. And he visits this curse upon... This is like the most bizarre thing in the world, okay? So, he puts this curse on you, he says, where he reduces your magic by half. And you can see in the upper left now my magic meter says 1/2 on it. But what it actually does is it actually reduces the amount of magic that your various spells and items use by 1/2, so that you effectively have double the magic power. Now, I think it's supposed to be some sort of a gimmicky thing where it's like, oh, you know, I threatened to curse you, but I really didn't, ha 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 ha, sort of a thing. But it actually was very difficult to decipher what the hell he had done and why. Because it's not noticeable. You just don't use a whole lot of magic, really. So it's not tremendously noticeable what was done. You just kind of have to figure it out, or, like, guess at it. And the other thing we could do is, you'll remember that the woodcutters were here, and they said that this tree was strange inside, and now since they've moved on, We can now run at the tree, smash the tree, and get under it. And the music tells us that we found a fairy spring. But we've also found yet another piece of heart. Huzzah! And now with that taken care of, we can return to the swamp and move on. Now you don't have to go back to the pyramid every time you want to end up in the Dark World. Because scattered throughout the world are portals that lead you into the Dark World. Usually in locations convenient to the different dungeons. So, oh, that guy with the tongue, that is this game's equivalent of the like. He will stretch out his tongue and eat your shield, and then you'll have to replace it. Oh, you know what, though? Before we go into this dungeon... there is actually one other thing that we can do here. And which is get ourselves killed by these jelly blob guys. I love that you can pick up items with the boomerang. So you notice this suspicious fenced-off area. And by this point, we've kind of figured out that when we see something suspiciously blocked off, we transport between worlds, and now we're on top of this high bluff. And we find yet another of these magic markers that we can translate into English, or actually, I guess into... well... actually, I don't know, because I would have thought it was Hylian, but the language is ancient Hylian. And we get the Bombos Medallion, which is, again, an area effect spell that inflicts fire damage on pretty much everything on screen, I think. Yep, it did set fire to that soldier. And now we are ready for the next dungeon. And I'm gonna confess that, look, normally in video games, what's coming up is the water level, okay? There's always a water level. And normally in video games, the water level is terrible. It is always the worst level. But I gotta confess, this is actually one of my favorite dungeons. This is actually probably my favorite dungeon. I love this dungeon. I love the boss. I love the way it's designed. I love the puzzles in it. And Sahasrahla is explaining kind of the gimmick, if you haven't already figured it out, that changes in one world affect changes in another world. Hint, hint. We also run into a little problem where that ladder just does not reach down far enough for us to climb up there. And there's no other place to go. So we would think that we are out of luck. But if we return to the light world, we find that this is in the exact same space as the water gate here. And while we're here, we'll use the magic powder on the anti-fairies to refill our health, or just the one. And by the way, I don't think I showed this off, but if you pull the wrong switch, snakes... oh no, bombs. Bombs drop. But, as Sahasrahla suggested, things in one world affect things in the other world. So now we find we've drained the lake here. And also that we've flooded the channel. And now we can swim up to this little pool ladder and enter the dungeon. Those little bubbles will just spawn infinitely. There's nothing you can do about them. And we see almost immediately a cracked wall. And by now we know what to do with cracked walls. And get the map pretty much right away, which we can check out. And you can see this dungeon is pretty extensive. It's a little bit bigger than the the Dark Palace. I like the little blobs, how they come up out of the floor. And those little skull turrets, the magic shield will reflect those red beams. I don't have a key. Oh. Oh, so the key is hidden underneath one of the skulls in here. Also, those bubbles, interestingly enough, they won't come off the water surface. Hey, hero. Yep, another joke about how different Dark Souls looks tonight. Oh, the little turret in the middle there will only shoot, and it will shoot in one of 4 directions depending on where you're standing, but it'll only shoot when you swing your sword. Well, no key hidden under there. Can't push this statue. And can't get up to that ladder. But there's a key. I'm not entirely sure what it is about this particular dungeon that I like, that makes it my favorite, but I think one of it is that you finally have just enough tools that they can build some interesting puzzles, and they kind of force you to use your tools. And like, okay, now how do you get through here? How do you get through here? And it's not like any of the puzzles are particularly hard or particularly non-linear, but there's just something satisfying about seeing how it all kind of comes together. And these little railings keep me from jumping off the edge there, so I can't get down onto that floor. But now I can swim to the pool ladder here and climb out. And this is the big main room of the dungeon. And we see the big treasure chest is in here. But we can't open it yet because we don't have the big key. I'm actually going to go ahead and use one of my medicines. I'm taking a lot more damage than I usually do. Yeah, the Mad Adventurer in chat is mentioning, my discussion of meta puzzles, and, actually I gotta confess, I don't really remember that discussion. What are you referring to? Mad Adventure. Mad Adventurers, plural, so there's more than one of you. Now with the compass, we can see where the boss is, and he looks pretty close, but we won't be able to get there for a little while yet. So we've got to keep wandering around and hopefully finding other places we can go in here. And there's that one door to the lower left. There's a locked door up there with no obvious way to get to it. There's a locked door up there, but I don't have a key. So, we'll go this way. And we see these, the orange and blue blocks returned from the previous dungeons. Oh, the Mad Adventurer is talking about the dungeon architect who sets up puzzles, traps in his dungeon based on how adventurers typically approach solving. Oh, okay, yeah, I remember. Yeah, I made this, this joke on Twitter about, picturing a former adventurer who turned on other adventurers by building a dungeon that is specifically designed to take advantage of the way adventurers think, to trap them, but at the same time being completely fair. So now we can get to this switch, which allows us to flood that channel, and because we also lowered the blue blocks, except I have a feeling that I want the blue blocks up still. I have if I recall correctly, and it's been a long time, it actually saves me some backtracking if I leave the blue blocks up and come all the way around. I could be wrong. We'll find out together. It's part of the wonderful journey that is Angry Plays Vintage Game Night. That little fire snake kind of moves at random. He doesn't have a set pattern. I could have sworn there was a... Could have sworn there... I guess I don't remember this as well as I thought I did. I thought there was a bombable wall there. And I used that trick of tapping the wall to hear the sound. Yeah, I think I was right. I think I did want those the blue blocks up. So now we end up here on the upper floor. I didn't quite think that could corner around there like that. I'm being, like, really careless. I'm taking a lot of hits. Again, my impatience is working against me. So, again, we see these holes. They don't have blackness underneath them, so they indicate we can drop down to the floor below. That one nets us a red rupee, which is worth 20. Hey, fun fact, even though they've been called rupees throughout most of the series, in the original game, the instruction manual listed them as rubies. That fact actually wasn't that fun. I thought it would be more fun, but it really wasn't. And that's why I wanted to keep the blue blocks up, so that the orange blocks would be down, and I could get in here. And now, with the big key, we can go open the giant chest in that big central room. This, whoops. I actually just walked into immobile spikes. That pretty much, I just did that to myself. I mean, the dungeon designer had to be sitting there saying, nobody is going to be stupid enough to walk into these things. But what the hell, we'll give it a try, right? The dungeon minions are all watching like, I can't believe he actually walked into the spikes. And now we get the hook shot. The hook shot serves as a sort of grappling hook device. where you can hook onto fixed objects. It will also retrieve objects, kill some weak enemies, and it will stun stronger enemies. It's actually pretty versatile, and one other little trick with it, and I'll try and see if I can show it off. I'll try to see if I can show it off when I have more health. But while the chain is extending, you actually become invincible. So if you can time it just right, you can get enemies to walk right through you. Again, I let myself get pretty beat up. Alright, I'm gonna have to be careful because all I got left is one fairy. I'm gonna have to be careful, I says, right? I'm trying to remember which way I want to go first. I think I want to take the left-hand side first. The hook shot also conveniently does not conduct electricity. So you can kill these guys even while they're zapping. Whereas if you hit them with the sword, you'll get electrocuted. You know, because basically a metal chain grappling hook, you know, wouldn't ever conduct electricity and kill you. I guess we'll just see. See, that's an example of an enemy that it will only stun. Ah, there, see, I got the lasers to pass through me. The problem with the hook shot is that the hitbox on it is really kind of precise, especially with those little guys. But the nice thing is the skeletons will not jump it like they try to jump your sword. Okay, yeah, see, I can't get anywhere here. I can't push the lever from this side, and I can't get at that door because the pool is... The water is full, and I can't dive. Link actually can't submerge. Outside in the deep water, he can dive for a short period of time to avoid enemies, but... Huh. I need to open that shutter, but I can't quite remember what does it. Oh, the switch on this side opens both doors. Duh. Alright, you know what? We'll just sword. Right. Alright, so there is a little bit of puzzliness to it, but if you just kind of stay persistent, you'll get there. I don't need to kill you. I can just walk down the stairs. You're not coming after me. You just float there. And now, with the water drained, we can access the lower part of this floor. I actually really didn't need to come in there. So, we go through that room, and it leads us here, which refills us a little bit. But otherwise, this room's a dead end. And somewhat problematically, there don't appear to be any other exits. Though if we check the map carefully, we can see that there is another room. And we just have to slip through the waterfall. So again, this dungeon has a couple of neat little puzzles to it. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the shape of this room. And there's a little bit of a current here. Oh, right. So I'm attacking above those guys. Alright, well let's try out this bombos thing. That was weird. I guess the fire sprite couldn't load on the moving water or whatever. Got another cracked wall in the middle there. And kind of a welcome refill. Yeah, actually what they do is they, Mad Adventurers is asking if the room shapes spell out anything. And they actually spell out the word tick, T-I-C. I don't know what that means. I have no idea, like, if there's some sort of Easter egg related to that name or whatever. But that's it. And I know that off the top of my head only because I tried to figure it out when I was a kid too, and it was like, and see, this is the T, the I, and the C. I also like how outside of each boss's room, there's a little sign on the floor that's kind of a picture of that boss. And this is the boss of the dungeon, Argus? And that's pretty much his gimmick. He's got that blob around him of little monsters. Every once in a while he'll spin them around, and as long as you stay far away, they can't get you. The trick is to grab them with the hook shot, and then before they can rejoin him, kill them. And you don't want to grab them from below, because of the way the sprites line up, you tend to pull them onto yourself, and then you'll take a hit from them. So you kind of want to get them from above. Like, see how it pulls it onto where I'm standing? Ah, that was close, huh? Try to draw him down, whoops, and then I'll walk right into him. That's a plan. I like this boss. It's kind of a neat, kind of a neat little puzzle thing. In general, I gotta say, I really enjoy the boss fights in the Zelda series. The Zelda series really just kind of exemplifies the whole puzzle boss thing. And that was one of the disappointing things about going back and playing Legend of Zelda. Because, again, I was expecting it to be... expecting to have the same puzzle boss sort of a setup. So then he changes tactics. And does this erratic sort of whirling around the room, and it's actually easier to connect with him with the spin attack here. And that's Argus. And with that, we free another maiden from her crystal prison, and are one step closer to saving the world. How is the sound setup, guys? Can you hear me okay? Do I sound all right? I'm trying out a new microphone and a new setup, so if there's problems, let me know. And now, in case you didn't catch it the first dozen times this game covered it, here's the story again. Mad Adventurers is asking what I use to capture and stream. For console gaming, I have an Elgato HD capture card, and I'm using the, I use the software that came with it, which is a program called Game Capture HD. For PC streaming like this, which I'm using an emulator, I'm actually using a program that Twitch suggested called XSplit, I think it's called. Yeah, XSplit. Which I think I ended up paying for. But that's all good. I paid also just to have a little bit, just to upgrade the Twitch account also. If I recall correctly, it was pretty reasonable. So now with the hookshot, we can get ourselves up to the third dungeon in the Dark World, which is up here in the Dark Woods, the analog to the Lost Woods. And, of course, I tried to throw my boomerang, but it was a hammer. I like the idea of Link, like, clocking the guy in the forehead with a little hammer. Like, what the hell was that? He's like, I'm sorry, I thought it was my boomerang. Granted, I guess, probably if you clock someone in the head with a mallet, they're not going to be very conversational anyway. And I still have the mallet on, huh? Alright, let's switch to the hookshot. The hookshot sort of works as an upgrade to the boomerang in a lot of ways. And actually, we can hookshot our way across here if we want to, but before we do that, let's take care of a few errands. Let's take care of a few errands is like, it's like the catchphrase of this game. You know what? I'm just... no. Actually, it's very important. I was just gonna settle for some red medicine, which just fills up health, but not magic. But it is actually really important in this next dungeon that you be able to refill your magic. And if you don't know that going in, you can get kind of screwed, because you don't discover it until you're fighting the boss. So we'll grab 2 more bottles of blue medicine. I'm drinking enough of this now that I'm just gonna turn blue. Which, by the way, is totally possible. There is a... basically, it's a form of, I think, colloidal silver that people used to drink for its supposed health benefits. But if you drink enough of it, it actually will turn your skin blue. So, that's today's fun fact. I hate those skulls that come to life. So, as you can see from the sign, that leads up to the Lake of Ill Omen. And I actually have an interesting story related to this puzzle, as well as interesting as any of my stories actually are. But, so, when I was in, I guess it was high school, I played this game for the first time in Japanese. there was a local video store, or actually a local computer game store, and they used to get Japanese imports that they would rent out. And so the game was available in Japanese before it was available in English, obviously. I got distracted because... Okay, so you read that sign. I'll get back to that story in a second. You read that sign, it says, don't throw anything into the Circle of Stones, and naturally, being an adventure game hero, you throw something into the Circle of Stones. Yeah, Mad Adventurers is pointing out that the colloidal silver actually has no actual health benefits. Yes, you are consuming a heavy metal, so it can actually be kind of dangerous. And this fish guy throws you the last of the 3 magic medallions. That is the Quake Medallion. And the Quake Medallion stuns everyone on screen and does a little earthquake. So anyway, when I was a kid, I actually rented this in Japanese before it came out in English, and it may surprise you to know that I actually do not speak a word of Japanese. Actually, that's not true. I can speak like one phrase in Japanese. I can identify things as ham or not ham, or ask if something is a ham, but that's a completely different story. And I got this far in the game understanding none of the text at all. And this was before the internet. I couldn't look anything up. I had to plow through a lot of the puzzles. I rented it week after week after week, like every weekend for like 2 months. And I couldn't get any further than this because I couldn't read that sign, and it never occurred to me to throw something into the Circle of Stones. Now the thing is, you can get much farther in the game yet, and it isn't until the 7th dungeon here that that Quake Medallion actually becomes required to proceed. So, I never actually managed to beat the game in Japanese. I just got killed, didn't I? Huh. Well, isn't that funny? I have to keep my eye out for some more fairies. Okay. I guess I should kind of pay attention to what I'm doing rather than my hilarious stories. But, you know, that was the thing, though, because I've made fun of the puzzles in this game for being, like, really obtuse, and a lot of them are. Like, digging up that flute was just ridiculous. But at the same time, I kind of brute forced a lot of them by just, you know, doing what I could do over and over again until I just kind of stumbled on the solutions. I'm persistent to the point of stupid, honestly. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. Anyway, with the hook shot, we can now get across this spot here and continue on our journey. For some reason, the bomb-throwing ogres are immune to the hook shot, but not the boomerang. That's weird. That seems like there should have been something there, doesn't it? So here's another interesting thing, and this is actually the only bit of sequence breaking I'm gonna do. There is actually... You'll remember that I picked up the power glove, and that's what lets me pick up the rocks and pick up the skulls. But these dark green skulls are too heavy for me to lift with my current power glove. I need a stronger power glove. And I can get into this little area here. And by getting into this area and returning to the present, I'd see that there's here in the, or not in the present, in the light world, I'd see that there are these boulders here that I also can't pick up. And the trouble is that this tombstone has a secret under it that if you can dash against the tombstone, you will reveal it. But there isn't enough room so that if you hold down the dash button, you just grab the tombstone. There's a trick where if you start dashing to the side and then turn at the last second, you can dash with 0 wind-up room. And thus, you're not supposed to be able to get this until you get the more powerful Power Glove, but we can get in here now. And we're going to go ahead and help ourselves to the item. And the item is actually a neat little item, the Magic Cape, which makes you invisible when you wear it, but more importantly, it also allows you to pass through enemies and certain obstacles. So that is me with the Magic Cape on, and the ghost can't hurt me. It's not a major sequence break, but, you know, it is possible, and it's a little bit more efficient just to grab it now. We can also get up onto this ledge in the Dark World, which lets us access this cave that we couldn't otherwise access. And you'll notice the discolored rocks, and it dings when we tap it, indicating there is something hidden underneath. And lo and behold, another piece of heart. And now another full heart thing. And it's actually very important that I pick up all the heart pieces because I've been taking a lot of hits. Whoops. So if you try to transport between worlds and you're overlapping something, you'll get shunted back. So I didn't quite clear the wall there, and that's why I got shunted back into the other world. And now we can move on. This is the Dark World equivalent of the church, or the sanctuary actually, because we're not allowed to call it a church. Pope Octorok presiding. And that little thing is just a little clue to something that will become important much later on. But I can't do anything with that information just yet. Have no idea what this skull arrow formation is pointing to. It's actually pointing to nothing, I know that much, but... Hey, O-Dog! Thanks for stopping by. Whoops. We're back to Legend of Zelda and Vintage Game Night tonight. And while we're here, this sort of kind of gives a clue as to how to get that piece of heart up there. So we'll head into this cave. I don't know if we've seen these things. Oh yeah, we have, in the Tower of Hera. But these are like pinball machine bumpers. If you come into contact with them, and they've got kind of a wider hitbox than you think they do. They bounce you off in a random direction. Now using the hook shot, we can get across here. But then we seem to be stopped by this pinball bumper. But thanks to our new handy-dandy cape, we can just pass right through. And voila, another piece of heart is ours. Ow! Stupid pterodactyl. I forgot, they don't run away after you hit them once like the birds do. And now we enter the Dark Woods, which is the Dark World equivalent to the Lost Woods. And under here is... Damn it! Me really sucking at things. Underneath here is the third dungeon. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble with those stupid little hopping guys. The third dungeon has kind of a really neat gimmick to it, which was sort of foreshadowed in the... I don't have any fairies. I just died for reals, didn't I? Yeah, I did. Awkward. Alright. Sorry about that. I gotta make sure that I pick up a fairy. Just as kind of a failsafe. Trying to think where the nearest, easiest place to get some small fairies is. Everything in the Dark World hits a little bit harder than the stuff in the Light World. I gotta stop relying on the hookshot so much. It's just something about the way those guys move that totally throws me off. I don't know why. How many hours of gameplay does this game typically have? I guess... Probably, I mean, I would guess in the neighborhood of, if you know what you're doing, you could probably do it in six hours, maybe. Blind, I guess anywhere between 8 and 12 hours. Also, it depends on how much of a collectionist you want to be. Or a completionist, I guess. Like, I'm making it a point to grab all the heart pieces and all the items, because there are a couple of things that I'm grabbing that are optional. But you could probably do it blind first time playthrough in about 8 hours tops. I think there are small fairies under here, right? Yeah, okay. I'm actually going to drain one of my bottles here and take 2 fairies with me so that basically they're like extra lives, so... Since I seem to be getting myself killed, we'll... And I'm trying to think, let's see if we can do this a little bit quicker. Because I can teleport up there and then use a teleport panel. So like I said, there is actually a teleport panel located fairly conveniently to just about every dungeon in the game. Oh yeah, but I gotta come around the back for that one. This big rock is, because it's dark colored, it's too heavy for me to pick up with my current equipment. So I gotta come around from the other side of that. But there is a teleport panel there that will get me into the Dark World. I actually like the transparency effect now that the fog is gone. You have kind of that, the overhead canopy sort of a look to it. It's also convenient to remember that that tree has a full decanter of magic in case you drain your magic. But now that this puts us... Whoops. There was a skull hiding under that bush. This puts us conveniently on the edge of the Dark Forest. Boomerang out. The dungeon that I'm going into now is... I think a lot of people think of it as sort of that one dungeon. A lot of people dislike it. For a couple of reasons. Oh, stream is getting a little choppy. Okay. Let me see if I can fix that.